What happens when the people in charge of America's economy can't even tell you how many Americans are living in poverty? When the powerful lose touch with the reality of ordinary lives, that's not leadership, that's neglect.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the Secretary for being with us today. I want to start first by just clarifying your testimony and its delivery. Why did you ask for your witness statement to be embargoed until this morning?
Sorry, pardon me?
Your testimony reads right at the very top, embargoed until delivery, which means that we didn't follow the usual practice of this committee of getting the testimony 24 hours in advance so that committee members can review it and prepare for questions. Yours was posted at 10:01. The committee was at 10. Well, it looks like you need.
My staff is just telling me that it's standard practice.
It's your standard practice? It's not our standard practice as a committee.
I'm told that it was standard practice.
Okay, you were told by whom, sir?
So my comms team and legislative affairs team working with the committee.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think for the record, I think you should clarify to the gentleman that that is not our standard. And I know that at least I didn't know anything about this until I got it here. And I don't think our committee staff on the Democratic side was notified that we would be getting all your testimony late. I just wondered, why you had made that request, and clearly at the top, embargoed until delivery.
Well, embargo to delivery, I think that was mostly meant for the press.
We're not press, sir. We're the members of Congress that have oversight. So, Mr. Chairman, I would hope that you not condone this kind of late submission. It just doesn't help, frankly, for some of the atmosphere that's created when we all just sit down and we still don't have your testimony. Well, then, we just sort of don't feel really good about that. It's not our custom and
Congresswoman,
practice.
I appreciate the importance that you put on my statement.
Well, thank you. Notice it's important, sir. Do you know what the poverty rate is in our country?
I believe that the poverty level is a fixed number.
No, do you know the poverty rate in this country?
I believe it is in the teens.
In the teens, okay. Well, it's about a little over 11%. It just strikes me that most of all of your testimony is always about the tax cuts and cutting costs, and it's always about tax cuts, and it's always about the rich. But nothing is ever said about poor, other than you suggesting that you worked yourself
No,
through
ma'am,
college.
no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. and
Sir, I read your testimony. That's not anywhere in here.
Deductibility.
That is not in here, sir.
Deductibility
I am
of
referring
auto
to your
loans.
testimony and what I've listened to. I said right up front, I can see you and I can hear you. You've not said one thing about what we're doing to help the poor. In fact,
none of your colleagues
even when
have
we were
asked me.
talking, about the car seats, that impacts poor people more than anyone else. Because not only can they usually not even afford a car seat and have to go to a garage sale to find one, now it's going to be even higher. Your president is suggesting that he wants to give a $5,000 bonus to women to have babies, and then what? Just leave them out on the cold alone? No car seat, no food, no Medicaid, no chip
Congresswoman,
program?
I can tell you the worst.
And I'm asking you right now, sir.
The
that
worst thing
you-
for
you
working
need
families
to-
will be
as a
the
treasurer-
expiration of the 2017
As Secretary of Treasury,
Tax
it's not
Cuts and
just
Job
about
Act.
the inflation rate. It's not just about the GDP. It's also about making sure that we keep the poverty rate in this country low. There are people who are living in poverty that never have lived in poverty before. You also failed to say here, you say unemployment remains low. I mean, the study should have read unemployment went up.
Ma'am,
Because it did.
Under the Biden administration,
And the growth
we
administration,
experienced
we're not talking about Biden, sir. We're
record
talking
food bank
about your
usage.
testimony here
Record food
today
bank usage.
about the current president and his plans. Because I can tell you, I'm from Houston. I'm concerned too about some of the tariffs on energy. We have done a lot to increase trade in Houston, construction, everything after the pandemic. And all things were growing. Everything has been growing. But now that the Trump tariffs have surfaced, it is threatening Houston's economy. I represent the area where almost the entire ship channel is in. The petrochemical companies all are in my district. The port is in my district. Everybody is trying to figure out
Gentlewoman's
what the
time has
hell we're going to
expired.
do.
What happened in that hearing between Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent wasn't just a clash of personalities, it was a clash of values, of priorities, and of what it truly means to serve the American people. This wasn't about statistics or press statements, it was about how this government, under Donald Trump, chooses to see or ignore the struggles of millions of ordinary Americans. Garcia's tone from the start said everything. She was firm, serious, and fed up. When she asked Bessent why his testimony was embargoed until the last minute, meaning Democrats didn't get a fair chance to prepare questions, she wasn't just pointing out a procedural issue. She was calling out a deeper problem, a culture of secrecy and arrogance in this administration. A Treasury Secretary who delays sharing testimony with the very lawmakers charged with oversight sends a clear message. He doesn't think accountability applies to him. But the real weight of Garcia's questioning came when she turned to the heart of the matter, poverty in America. She asked Bessent a simple question: do you know the poverty rate in this country? His hesitation spoke volumes. He stumbled, guessing it was in the teens. Garcia had the number, about 11%. But behind that statistic are lives, parents working 2 jobs but still unable to afford rent, children going to bed hungry, seniors choosing between medicine and groceries. That's what Garcia was getting at. This administration can talk endlessly about tariffs, tax cuts, and strong economies, but those numbers mean nothing if millions of people are still living in hardship. When she said his testimony focused only on tax cuts and the rich, she was exposing a truth we've seen repeatedly under Republican leadership, that their economic agenda is not built around working people. It's built around protecting wealth and consolidating power. When Bessent tried to defend himself by citing things like no tax on tips or deductibility, Garcia cut straight through it. She wasn't impressed by catchphrases or slogans. What she wanted to know was simple: where is the plan for the poor? Where are the policies that lift people out of poverty, not just offer lip service about economic growth? Her frustration was not performative, it was personal. Sylvia Garcia represents Houston, a city where the working class fuels the economy, from dock workers and refinery staff to teachers and small business owners. And what's happening now, with Trump's reckless tariffs, threatens those same livelihoods. Her district includes the Port of Houston, a global hub for trade and petrochemical exports. These tariffs disrupt supply chains, raise costs, and inject uncertainty into industries that can't afford it. In other words, Trump's trade war isn't just a foreign policy experiment, it's a direct attack on American jobs, especially in communities like Garcia's. And then there was that striking moment when Garcia brought up Trump's so-called proposal to give women a $5,000 bonus for having babies, a hollow gesture that sounds compassionate on the surface but collapses under scrutiny. Garcia's question, "and then what?" exposed the emptiness behind the rhetoric. Because what happens after that check clears? Where's the investment in childcare, in maternal health care, in family leave? Where's the safety net that ensures those babies grow up healthy and supported? This is what Democrats like Garcia have been trying to say for years. You can't claim to be pro-family while gutting the very programs that help families survive. You can't preach fiscal responsibility while asking taxpayers to foot the bill for corporate tax cuts and trade wars that serve political egos, not the public good. Garcia's exchange reminded us that economics isn't just about growth charts and deficit figures. It's about values, about who benefits and who's left behind. It's about whether a government measures success by the number of billionaires it creates or by how many families it lifts out of poverty. And in that hearing, Garcia made it clear, this administration has lost its moral compass on economic policy. They celebrate Wall Street while Main Street struggles. They measure progress by profit margins, not by how many Americans can pay their bills without fear. Bessent's answers, or lack thereof, revealed just how disconnected this administration is from the lives of working people. His reflexive defense of tax cuts for the rich and tariffs for political theater shows a worldview where the poor are invisible, where economic pain is brushed aside as collateral damage. Garcia's performance wasn't about scoring political points, it was about demanding humanity in policymaking. Her tone, her persistence, her refusal to let him hide behind jargon, that was the sound of a public servant doing what every member of Congress should, standing up for those who don't have a seat at that table. This exchange should force every American to ask, what kind of economy do we want? One where wealth is concentrated at the top while working people fight over scraps? Or one where opportunity, fairness, and dignity are shared values, where prosperity means something for everyone, not just the privileged few? Garcia reminded us that government, at its best, is not about protecting wealth. It's about protecting people. And her questioning today was a reminder that Democrats are still fighting for that vision, an economy rooted in compassion, accountability, and shared progress. If there's one takeaway here, it's this: leadership isn't about boasting of economic numbers. It's about ensuring those numbers translate into better lives for everyone.